Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, classic slow internet speed. Some people just don't add up. How Wi-Fi turns into mashed potatoes. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Classic slow internet speed. This is a couple of months old now, and the short of it is I replaced someone's router, and they got way better internet speeds. I'm a physician, and my partner I share an office with turns to me for tech advice, and she loves to save money whenever possible. So a few years back I encouraged her to buy her own modem to work with Comcast, linked her to a refurb model from Woot. Fast forward to 2 months ago, she had been complaining her internet speed was crap for some time. She tried all the steps I taught her, like resetting the modem router. Then she did something I don't usually advise, which is to call Comcast. Comcast told her the modem was outdated, no longer supported. She then bought a new modem, did not check with me on this, and when she told me, I immediately told her to not open the box because I don't think it's a modem issue. I imagine Comcast scripts say to give that advice, and in the long run maybe was trying to sell her their gateway/modem/router. Anyway, so then later I'm at her place, and use my phone to verify her speeds are terrible. She's getting 7 to 8 megabits per second in her dining area. The router is in her bedroom, which is not very far, but behind a wall. If we walk over to her living room, which is the furthest from the router, the speeds drop to 2 to 3 megabits per second. This was with an iPhone 12 Pro Max, which has good antennas. So I tried connecting directly to the modem with a laptop. I didn't have my laptop on me, and her newer laptop doesn't have Ethernet. Fortunately, she keeps everything, becomes relevant in a second, so we find her 10-year-old laptop and manage to boot and connect it. Running Windows 7, it has Ethernet, and when connected to the modem we're getting 50 to 75 megabits per second. So I explain it's probably her router since the modem is getting fast enough speeds. So finally, I look at the router. It's from 2007. She keeps everything. If I remember correctly, it was maybe 802.11n. I laughed quite a bit, and told her how it's crazy she's using a router from greater than 13 years ago. Her response was it was meeting her needs, so never felt the need to replace it, and her dad set it up for her a long time ago, so she's never thought once about it. So we do an immediate run to her local Best Buy, and I find a Wi-Fi 6 router, Linksys. Run back to her home and install it. Repeat speed test in her dining room, and it's now 250 megabits per second. She is so happy she asks me if she can hug me. I'm not a hugger. Living room? 250 megabits per second. I explained to her that she's been paying for this internet forever, but never been able to utilize what she's been paying for because she was kind of cheaping out on upgrading her equipment. She brushed that off. Now she can even stream 4K to her living room. I'm always amazed how much people don't want to touch their equipment, or think about upgrading it. I understand the principle of it isn't broken, don't fix it, and how tempting that is for a person not familiar with tech. Still, she was being misled by Comcast, and if they did manage to convince her to get their all-in-one device, it would have fixed everything but given her the wrong impression about what the actual problem was. Some people just don't add up. I worked as a teaching assistant on a college course that taught how to build, upgrade, and maintain simple PC systems like you would get at home. The course was 12 weeks, with the first 2 weeks being getting to know the different parts inside a PC. After that was the usual installing Windows, upgrading, fault finding, simple networking, etc. In any group there is always one person who will struggle and needs a bit of extra support. This is the one I had to help many times with little hints and nudges to point him in the right direction throughout the whole of the course. I'll call him N. At the start of the lessons, the computers, monitors, keyboards, mice, and all the cables that the class were working with had to be brought out of the storage cupboard and put away again at the end of the lesson, as the room was used for other purposes during the week. Week 11 was typing up the notes you had ready to be added to the electronic test taken on week 12. Week 11 comes round and the tutor opened up the room for the students to use the word processors to type up their work while the tutor and I set up some simple fault-finding tasks in the teaching room. N comes in and says the computer to type up his work isn't working. We tell him to use another and we will be through shortly. Less than 5 minutes later he's back. The other computer isn't working either. This is really odd as the college has an IT team and the tutor is head of that team. If a computer wasn't working he'd know. Anyway, I follow N to the other room and ask him to show me which computer he was at. He showed me and I immediately knew what he had done wrong. The power light was lit on the monitor, but not on the desktop PC. I pressed the power button on the PC, waited for it to boot to login, logged in for him, and went back to the teaching room. When I told the tutor the problem he just sighed and shook his head. This wasn't the last time N stuck that week. After everyone in the class had had a go at fixing the faults we set up, we packed everything away and went back to the other room to work on our teaching notes and help those that were struggling. QN. We could hear a lot of grunting coming from a corner of the room where N was sitting. The grunts quickly got louder and then the banging started. One extremely loud grunt followed by what sounded like a fist bashing the keyboard and the tutor, and I quickly rushed over to see what was wrong. N was so frustrated he was sweating and saying that the text won't go down the page. I asked what he meant and he pointed to a paragraph on the screen. He said he wanted that bit lower down so he could put something above it, then started bashing away on the space bar. See, he said, it's not moving. Instead of pressing the return key to advance a line, he's been adding spaces. It turns out N had a PC at home that he had never used, so joined the course to learn how to use it. How Wi-Fi turns into mashed potatoes. I'm a digital nomad, and I moved into a Airbnb, a garden apartment attached to a house, albeit for a month on Sunday. The Wi-Fi was crappy, low speeds, drops often. Now this isn't abnormal, especially when I'm staying outside the country, but I'm in Florida. This is especially confusing because there is a Google Nest Wi-Fi access point 2 feet from my laptop. I messaged the hosts about it, and they have no idea what to do, although they are very kind and know they need to fix it. In these situations I can either pretend I don't know anything about tech, and hope it gets fixed eventually, or try to be helpful. I go back and forth each time. But these hosts were rather nice, let me arrive a day early, and didn't charge me for it. Plus, I'm here a month, and would like good Wi-Fi, so I offer to help. I used to do IT support, but that was a decade ago. It's amazing how things never really change. They had a Nest mesh router connected to the cable modem/router, and 2 other mesh access points elsewhere in the house, which their son had set up. As far as everyone in the family was concerned, it was plugged in, and there was a blue light, so it's working. Thus they were just confused why Wi-Fi sucked on both ends of the house. The host had even ordered a separate internet service for the guest quarters on the opposite side of the house from me, as service was almost non-existent there. When I saw the access point right by me, and saw my crappy signal, my assumption was that particular access point had just never been set up. It turns out that all the son had done was plugged things in physically, and never actually set up the network. We were all using the default cable modem/router network. So, I set up the mesh network, advised them on placement, and that they order an additional access point, then set that up. Speeds went from 10 to 150 megabits per second at the edges of the house, and the network now covers the entire house and yard. The separate internet got cancelled, saving $60 per month. I then got invited to Thanksgiving dinner and to go dragon boating. Very sadly, I had other Thanksgiving plans, so I was not able to be tech support for the entire extended family yesterday. Although I still had to fix my mom's printer, ironically by rebooting their router.